So in this video, we're going to create Terraform Cloud Agents to be able to run inside of your private network. So if you're using Terraform Cloud, they recently, not saying recently, but they have now the ability to allow you to use your own agents within your own private network to make it easier for you to control the IP addresses that are being used when connecting to resources in your environments. So if you're already set up in Terraform Cloud, you may have the option to choose your organization. I'm using the free plan. So I have the old free plan, which doesn't have the agents. So I had to create a new one. And inside of here, I don't have anything set up, but I basically have my connections and things like that to Azure to be able to deploy resources. So inside the settings here, you're going to go to agents and you're going to create an agent pool. If you're on the free plan, you only get one of these. So basically what happens is you're only going to allow or be allowed to have one concurrent run going at a time. So go ahead and name this whatever you want. I'm just going to call this Let Me Tech You Agent Pool. And create that. And then what you're going to need to do is create a token. So I'm going to call this agent 01 token. Now you want to keep this. So what I'm going to do is, typically you want to secure this so that it can't be utilized. Once I'm done with this video, I'll be revoking mine anyways. So inside of Azure, if you already have a Linux server set up, you can skip this part. But essentially, this would be creating something from scratch. So if you're familiar with Azure DevOps, you have the ability to have your self-hosted agent run your jobs and things like that. So that's essentially what we're going to be doing here, is basically building our own self-hosted agent. So I'm going to call this Terraform Cloud Resource Group. Keep it in East US, then create. And then inside of there, I'm going to create a Linux virtual machine. And I typically go with Ubuntu, but basically what we're going to be doing is installing Docker on this here. And give me 1 second here. Window, move this off to the side. Okay, so let's look for Ubuntu. Now there is 22.04 available, but I'm going to go with 20.04 only because 22.04 I ran into some issues with newer builds trying to deploy things. So make sure I got server. So 20.04 LTS server version. Something went wrong while creating. So let's try that again here. So let's give that a second. So it could be a little delay in Azure's services here. So let me try refreshing the portal. Oh, there we go. Okay, so I'm going to go create. Let's call this Terraform, or let's call it Let Me Tech You Agent 01. Leave all this default. It's going to generate a new key. So this is what I'm going to use to remote into my instance. And I want to allow SSH in. Probably go through all the defaults on this. I'm going to create a basic network security group to allow any traffic in. Obviously in a production network, you want to maybe limit the scope of that to your private IPs. And then advanced, and review and create. And then it should give me the option to download that key. Now what it's doing here is just basically making sure that all my inputs are valid. Seems to be taking a little longer than usual. All right, so we got the VM created. It had me download the key, so this should be in my downloads folder, and it is. So now what I'm going to do is remote into that instance. And if you don't have anything to remote into the instance, which you could actually go down here to the serial console and access it from here. But I'm going to be using my terminal. So I'm going to navigate into my downloads folder. And I'm going to be looking for that file. What was it called? Okay. So to SSHN, we're going to do SSH -I, and then it's going to be, the file was let me there, the name of the file, and then Azure user, which was the name of the user we created at, and then the IP address here. So the public IP is 20.168.241.133. Yes. Bad permissions. It is required that your private keys are not exposed. Okay, so give me 1 second. I gotta basically change permissions on that key file. All right, so if you run into that same problem here, what you need to do is go to your key file, which let me bring this on a Mac. I just basically went down to get info, and there was another entry called staff. I removed that and I gave everyone no access. Then I was able to pull it back up, get into my instance here. So we just make sure that we're able to now. We need to download and install Docker. So I'm going to bring this up. So first thing we need to do is just update this instance. So we're going to do a sudo apt update. And these commands I'll put down into the comments down below as well. And then we want to do sudo apt up or install apt-transport-https ca certificates space curl software. And what this is doing, this is going to allow us to basically install prerequisite packages, which lets us app use packages over HTTPS. And this is going to be common. Yes on that. And then we're going to add the GPG key for the Docker repository to our system. So I have that copied over to another screen here. So I'll paste this in. Like I said, I'll have these down in the down below. Now, to make sure you're able to install from the Docker repo instead of the default Ubuntu repo, we're going to do an apt cache policy Docker CE once this actually takes. There we go. So apt cache policy Docker Okay, so you see we have none. So where it says Docker C installed none, there's no candidate or version table. So what we're going to do is going to say apt, we're going to do a sudo apt install Docker C. Oh, we don't have any oh, I didn't see that. So we didn't have any candidate installed. Let me paste this back in here. And all right. So let's cache that Docker CE again. Let's try this again here. If for some reason it's not showing the candidate version, let me see something here. Oh, okay. I forgot to put the Docker repository in the system. So let me add that back. And now if we do yeah, it's still not putting. Well, let me do that with sudo. I shouldn't have to do this portion. Still nothing. Okay, sorry, wrong command again. So yeah, I was supposed to do this one particularly here that I had from my notes. I kept doing the same one up there. So like I said, I'll have those step by step down below. This part is just more so the Docker portion of it, nothing to do with Terraform Cloud. So if you already have Linux set up, you may already have Docker installed. You can skip all this part. So now what we need to do is install Docker. So now what we're going to do is do a sudo apt install Docker CE. So sudo apt install Docker. And then that should start it up. So now it should be installed in the process, enabled to start on boot. So now what we're going to do once this finishes up here is check that it's running. So in this portion might just depend on system speed and processes. So that 97% here. And then once we get that, we'll go back to the Terraform Cloud console and we'll grab those token and the image name that we'll need to download the image that we'll need to run. So we're going to want to run this in detached mode so that we don't have to have the terminal up for the agent to run. All right, so now go ahead and do a sudo systemctl status docker. And we can see that it's running. Let's go ahead and quit. And now if we go back to Terraform Cloud, we're going to want to actually do a Terraform. Let's copy this and let's put these environment variables in here. So grab this token. And then we're going to create an agent name. And this is what the agent's going to be called. So I'm going to blank this part out here. I'm just going to call it lmtechu agent 01. And that's what's going to be used when we call this here. So basically it's going to be a docker run -e. We're going to do a -d in front of the run so it runs in detached mode. If not, when you run this and then you close out of your terminal, it'll kill this container that's running. And it's going to use the environment variable token and the agent name, and it's going to pull down the latest Terraform Cloud Agent image. So let's go ahead and copy this and paste that in there. And before we go on there, you're going to see, let's go ahead and click finish on here. You're going to see that it's waiting for agents. So once we run this, oh, you know what? Actually, give me 1 second. So what we're going to need to do is, so that we don't have to run this in sudo, we're going to add this user to the Docker group. So if we look in groups, we see that they're not in Docker now. So we're going to do a sudo user mod a g docker and then Azure, or the name of your user. So now if we look at groups, we may need to, we need to apply it. I'm trying to think because I used a key, so I'm not sure if I'll have a password, but let me try something. Well, actually, you know what? Let me go for. Okay, they're not in there. Okay, so I just did a sudo in front of it. I didn't have a password because I'm using a passwordless key for my authentication. So we can see that they're in Docker now. So I should be able to run the command. Let's just copy it from Terraform Cloud again. I might still have it in my. Yep. Okay. So what I want to do again, like I said, I want to put a -d in front of the run, so it's in detached mode. It's taking a second to think. It's downloading the agent. And now if we run a docker ps, it says it exited. Let's try this again. So it looks like it's stopping. Try to troubleshoot why here. Could be something with a particular token. Let's try this. So I'm going to create a new agent pool. Let's call this pool. Create a token, pool 1. And then let's export this token again. All right. And so now let's try to do, actually what we'll do first is before we run it in detached mode, let's actually see if we can get it to come up. So now it should show the agents. So here we show it idle. So we have an agent with an IP address of 20.168.241.133. And that's probably not going to be the IP address of your 2162. Is it 133? Okay, it is. Okay. I thought maybe they had like a natted IP address that they sent out from it. So basically, that's it. You now can use this as your own runs. And the reason you would want to use an agent is if you're have regulations or requirements to use private IP addresses or privately owned instances or IP addresses to connect to your instances internally to create resources using infrastructure as code. So that's how you can set that up. And then now, so when you do create your workspaces, you can set that agent as your actual way to deploy code. If you have any questions in regards to this, like again, I didn't get it to run in detached mode. I probably will look into seeing why it's doing that. Let me try to kill this job. If I do a detached mode now, run a Docker PS. Okay, now it is running. So as you can see, it's up status 2 seconds. Okay, so it's staying up. Could be that it just took a second. I'm not sure. I'll look into that. But that's how then if you do run into some problems where your agent keeps dying, you want to make sure it's running in detached mode. So since I'm on the free version, it's only going to give me the one agent to run. As you can see, it exited. And now we have a new agent ID with the same IP address. Again, if you have any questions, leave me a comment down below and I'll be sure to get back with you. Thanks again. Have a nice day.